Egypt's opposition is turning more radical as protests become increasingly violent. An anarchist movement of masked men calling themselves the Black Bloc now attracting more supporters. It's threatening Islamist authorities and sparking fears of a possible all-out street war. We were granted exclusive access to meet the group's secretive members. Let's find out more live now with our correspondent Bloc, who's standing by for us in Cairo at the moment. And Bloc, it's good to see you today. Thanks for coming on so quickly. How active and how popular is this group at this point, do you know?
This mysterious group appeared around the second anniversary of the January 25 revolution when they released this statement saying they would fight the Muslim Brotherhood and they would strive for the goals of the revolution. Around about that time, we started seeing young men in black balaclavas calling themselves the Black Bloc, and they were heading up the more militant side of the revolution. We saw them making Molotovs on their Facebook pages. They were giving instructions for street fighting. They've taken responsibility for a number of the acts of civil disobedience, such as stopping public transport, and also have said they were responsible for the burning of Muslim Brotherhood headquarters, or some of them. This, of course, has sparked mass criticism from the authorities, including the Muslim Brotherhood and their TV channels. The Prosecutor General on 29th of January said they were a terrorist group and that they would be arrested if they were caught red-handed. Our team managed to secure interviews with the members of the secret organisation.
The Black Bloc is an idea that came about as a reaction to the negligence of our peaceful demands, and also as a reaction against the oppression of the Interior Ministry, which receives orders from the regime. We stand against the oppressive and tyrant regime. We call upon the Interior Ministry to deliver justice for those who have been killed, and we will continue our demands until they are met. Our actions are in self-defense. We are protecting ourselves but have never attacked anyone. We will always be present in Egypt, even after all our demands are met. However, we will take on a different form. The aim behind our presence is to prevent injustice in any form. No one listens to our demands, and the proof is the number of people who are being killed.
Now, Bloc, for the meantime, though, Egypt is marking its second anniversary since the toppling of Hosni Mubarak, with certainly violent clashes and tear gas. We're getting all the reports. What's the latest from where you are now?
Well, we've got more planned protests today. The focus of today is for women's rights, after there's been a number of reports of very violent sexual assaults on women, in particular female protesters on Tahrir Square. At 5 p.m. we're likely to see mass marches here. It's supposed to be a global protest. Of course, we had marches yesterday to mark the stepping down or the ouster of Hosni Mubarak. This was organised by a coalition of different opposition forces. There are a number of marches focused particularly in the capital, coming to the presidential palace and Tahrir Square. The focus of the violence was once again at the presidential palace. We witnessed a lot of tear gas and also protesters using Molotovs, throwing them at the palace in this show of anger. There was also a number of reports of similar protests happening down in the south of Egypt and in Egypt's second city, Alexandria, although the only clashes that we had reported of were by the presidential palace. We expect to have a lot more on the horizon with further protests possibly this Friday.
All right, correspondent Bloc in the region. Thanks very much indeed for that report. Well, Egypt's police in the meantime have been ordered to arrest any member of the Black Bloc, which under the new constitution is considered a violent outlaw group. Author and journalist Ramzi Baroud thinks organizations like this sprout up. Well, they do tend to happen, ultimately because the country is so polarized.
For the last 2 years, Egypt has not been allowed to have a strong central government that is capable of pushing the political process forward, and thus the economy of the country, the social cohesion and everything else. As a result, you have this huge vacuum and this polarization, and that is allowing Egyptian society to be open for exploitation. What has been happening is not exactly a popular and unified popular uproar against a dictator, but rather a political polarization that has swept through the country for the last 2 years, reaching the point of both sides justifying violence against one another. And as a result, you have this increasing number of casualties, some of it indeed due to police brutality. There is a possibility that, in fact, that there are outsiders who are trying to rather add fuel to the fire that is already taking over Egypt, at least in the urban centers from Cairo to Bursaid. It's a phenomenon that I think resulted from the frustration, disenfranchisement, and just the general feeling of betrayal that the youth of Egypt are feeling right now. The issue is not the Black Bloc in particular, but why would they even appeal to the youth of Egypt in the first place unless there was that vacuum and there was that need that was created by the lack of centrality and the lack of confidence in the political process in Egypt, whether coming from the government or from the so-called opposition.